I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear.
The Paris Climate Accord is simply the latest example of Washington entering into an agreement that disadvantages the United States.
As a climate scientist, the first administration was, I think it's fair to use a term like disastrous, at least in some ways. We withdrew from the Paris Accord as a nation, the only country to do that. The administration reversed dozens of rules that made our air and water cleaner, rolled back safeguards restricting mercury emissions from power plants. So I'm most worried about our air and water quality in the near term. And I'm worried about agencies that, that track the health of the planet for the atmosphere and the oceans, like NOAA in particular, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration.
Critically, and I think far less visibly, a raft of people will be slotted into key jobs on climate within the federal government as part of the 9,000 political appointees across all agencies. Personnel is policy. And while this is far less visible than things like withdrawing from the Paris Agreement, it is critical because these are the people who are going to operate the US climate response and the energy transition, including the implementation moving forward of the Inflation Reduction Act and the bipartisan infrastructure law.
It's not just about climate. I keep thinking about how closely aligned all of these activities are to the air and water that we breathe. The hundreds of thousands of people that are still dying because of pollution from our vehicles and our coal plants. We don't want to lose that progress. We want to realize the benefits for climate, yes, but even if a person doesn't support climate, everyone supports cleaner air and water for ourselves and for our kids. So I hope that guiding light can be seen in the upcoming Congress and administration.
The president has broad power to repeal through the regulatory process proposed and existing regulations, including for things like power plant emissions of methane, for vehicle emissions as well. However, at the same time, consumers can choose to purchase a low emissions vehicle. States can choose to enact their own regulations about emissions, as we see California do. So again, I think while the federal government is an incredibly powerful tool, that doesn't mean that we're at the end of climate action in the US.